Geordie journals were a little bit sleepy.
Yeah.
a little bit worse for wear. Obviously, there's been a big day for one of the Geordie journals, hasn't there? Of course. So we enjoyed festivities with Dominique's new wife.
Yep.
At the start of this wonderful week, Nicole. Congratulations to the pair of you out there. The happily married couple. We spent a good day and night with them yesterday, and all the rest of the party guests. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I think he'll be watching this, Dom.
He will, won't he? Yeah.
He
loves it, man. He'd be happy. He wants to be here. He'd rather be here.
Yeah.
I don't think he would. No, I think that's a lie. He loves his graph, but not that much. No, so we've quickly jumped on. We've also been playing at St James's Park today in the media game, Play on the Park, which was excellent. You were on the winning team, I wasn't.
Yeah, bit of a mismatch, I thought, with the teams. Not that I'm complaining, but a lot of pace on our team, balls over the top.
Yeah, I did nothing but shuttle runs backwards playing centre half. Although I gift wrapped a chance for you, didn't I, with a mistake?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I think there'll be video highlights from the game. I believe it was being videoed. So yeah, 1-on-1, straight at the goalkeeper. But then I composed myself, found Lee Ryder in the box, and what a finish by the Chronicle man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it was a very one-sided affair.
Yeah,
being brutally honest. And I'm certain, I don't think it's me, I'm certain those strips are getting smaller every year. I felt like mine was sprayed on today.
Yeah, no, it was, mine was, it always is tight, but obviously it's just the fitting, it's not me.
Ah, it is. Right, well, we haven't come here to talk about that, as you can imagine. As you can see in the title of the video, you can see everything. We haven't come to talk about that. Come to talk about the news that we were sitting with all of the North East media and the media team from Newcastle United when the news of Paul Mitchell came through.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a chat about that?
Yeah, big surprise. I think there was people at the football club who didn't know. So yeah, 1 o'clock we got the WhatsApp message to say that Paul Mitchell had left. Hasn't left yet, I must stress. Actually, it's the end of June that he leaves, so we'll be carrying out his role until then. What he does in that time, I suppose there's 2 transfer windows that open in that time. They've got one from June 1st to June 10th, then from the 16th of June to the end of September. So maybe, potentially, if Paul Mitchell wants to do some overtime, might be able to get a couple of new signs in, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it actually impacts Newcastle United's transfer window, because I think that's what everyone will be wondering now, is what happens now, what happens to the transfer window now Paul Mitchell's not there. But I think I think
right, I'll tee you up.
Yeah.
Since last summer there's been a power battle.
Yeah.
Like a real clashing between 2 powerful football men, Eddie Howe, who is the manager of the football club, and of course Paul Mitchell, who came in as a sporting director. And clash. We know there was friction there with Dan Ashworth previously, who had that role. And since last summer, there was battle lines drawn, wasn't there? Over in Germany, we were over there in Germany, and it was interesting to see who would come out on top of that power battle. And I think it's unequivocal now that Eddie Howe won that power battle. And to be honest, given the season that they've had, it's hard not to give him the keys in the summer, in my opinion, to go and sign the players that he wants to. I think he's earned that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe December time, if you open the power battle, you probably think Paul Mitchell is winning it because the results on the pitch weren't going. But from obviously December onwards, after the Brentford game, which we're all going about, Carabao Cup, top 5 finish, Champions League football, Eddie Howe is the most powerful man at the football club right now. And as you say, rightly so, because he's delivered when he's been not let down, but obviously hasn't been able to strengthen the squad, and he's actually worked miracles where he's drained everything out of every single player for the last 3 windows without making a major signing, to get them win a trophy and then Champions League football as well is a remarkable achievement. And he is the most powerful man now. And I do wonder the dynamic going forward. We were speaking before. Does the dynamic of the football club change now in terms of a sporting director position? Because I've had 2 sporting directors now, and it's been a real neither have made any real impact whatsoever.
What's the sum total of Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell's work? I mean, let's be brutally honest about this. I mean, what did Dan Ashworth do? Move a few bits around here and there and organise a football club, maybe a little bit of streamlining,
he gave him a bit of structure.
That was it. Signed off. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Tonali's turned out well for everybody. But signed off a deal where it was common knowledge in Italy that this bloke was going to get some kind of slap on the wrist. Didn't know it was going to be as big a ban, but for the kind of thing that had been happening. What else did Dan Ashworth do apart from cause havoc and spend lots of time in his garden? Either side of coming to Newcastle United, and then get booted at Manchester United as well. Then Paul Mitchell's come in, and some total of dotting the I's and crossing the T's on Lewis Hall coming through as a permanent deal, which had already been set up previously by the likes of Miadad and Amanda. Signed Willa Sula from a relegated team, which was a deal we've already heard pretty much sanctioned and pushed for by Jason Tyndall, with Eddie Howe as well. No signings in January. I mean, really, if you were to look at it and say, getting canny money for Almiron and then getting ridiculous money for Lloyd Kelly
that's probably his legacy, isn't it?
His legacy. I mean, come on, for a bloke who came in with the fanfare that he came in, it's not exactly brilliant, is it? I would say, from what you hear and who you speak to, and I'd heard conflicting messages up to 6 months ago. I know you were hearing, we had conflicting messages. You were hearing about him sort of having this brash, sort of obnoxious almost of approach to people and rubbing people up the wrong way. And then my messages started coming back in the last 3-4 months, so that was absolutely the case. And we've kind of since then thought it feels like a ticking time bomb. I remember you said straight after the Carabao Cup final, not on camera, but to me and Dom, you went, Eddie Howe has won. He's won the battle. And you are saying it probably won't be long before Paul Mitchell goes.
I think I'm surprised by the timing and how soon it is, but I'm not surprised Paul Mitchell's left the football club whatsoever. I think Paul Mitchell came in last summer and he said himself, he came into a predefined strategy. We argued about it, and I think at points I think he used the term fit for purpose, and maybe in some aspects we were in agreement with that because they put themselves in a position where they couldn't spend money for 3 transfers because it spent so much. But now you can't really argue with Eddie Howe's strategy because it's brought him success.
Yeah.
And I know they've had pain in that time of not being able to go out and strengthen, but you literally got a manager here who's taken them with help, apart from the free transfer and spend, from going from bottom of the Premier League to Champions League. And I think when a manager does that, you've got to go with what he wants. I think that's the most powerful man in the football club. If that's what he wants and he wants to do things his way, I think you've got to back him. I think he's earned that. Totally earned that.
100%. So it does sort of beg the question: what happens moving forward? Will he be replaced? Will he not be replaced? I mean, there was some kind of passing comment in the statement which made little sense to me, with this reference of Darren Eales going. We've known.
Yeah, it's not fresh.
Darren Eales has been effectively working at 12 months' notice to ensure that there's a successor before leaving. It's never been predetermined that it was like, oh, he's now going and he's going to work for X, Y, and Z. It's just sort of like he's working until there's a successor, and as soon as that's sorted, he's away. So this connection with the Mitchell, trying to connect the Mitchell exit with that in the statement, was all a bit strange. I don't believe that for 1 second at all. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if they're replaced, because we know Steve Nixon's well thought of at the football club for a number of different reasons.
They've had previous, obviously when there wasn't a sporting director in place, Amanda Stavey and Mila Gadusi have obviously both left now, but they essentially led a transfer team of Eddie Howe, Steve Nixon, I think Jason Tyndall was on as well, and obviously Andy Howe as well, who was I think as a technically assistant head recruitment art.
In played a part in that first window as well. I think they were all little hands to the pump.
I just wonder if they do go for a sporting director again. I'd wonder if they go down a different route, where you've still got a director as such, but not a sporting director. Mentioned something like a technical director.
A friend of the channel, Craig Holt, wrote in his confidential piece, I think was it last week, suggesting there'll be a new appointment rather than, and it makes you wonder, does this kind of tie in with that information? I'm not sure it will be another sporting director. I don't think sporting director has worked for Eddie Howe and Newcastle United.
No, it hasn't. No.
And that's not to say it couldn't work, and it's not to say that it's not always necessarily the right way to go about things, but I think when it comes to defining transfer policy and who they're going to go for, I think they've probably got that nailed down with a head of recruitment, and Eddie Howe is a very headstrong head coach who wants to have a lot of control over that. Yeah. Look, the bloke's delivering, so just you're gonna have to let him have that control. What you almost need someone behind the scenes is almost like it needs a strategy, doesn't it? It needs a strategy for building below that first team level, and that can't be taken on necessarily by Nixon and Howe primarily. So you need somebody to come in and do, work on the wider strategy, which is kind of part of the remit of the job that Mitchell had and Ashworth had. They're going to need to have someone in to fill that gap. It also really, knowing that how hands-on a sporting director is in negotiations and sealing deals, they're probably going to need somebody to do that donkey work. Yeah, what you think was going to be a very busy summer. Yeah,
it's almost like technical director. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure every rule's different.
There might be somebody out there who does, but we're not experts on that.
But is it almost like it's admin work sort of thing. If that admin sign off deals, negotiate deals.
Eddie Howe's secretary.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Eddie Howe wants that player, right? No, but Eddie, I'll go out and sign him. He does the negotiations, whatever. Signs off the deal. There you go. But doesn't actually identify the player, which I think Paul Mitchell was really keen to do that. I think he wanted to be hands-on. I think he made it abundantly clear when he spoke about fit for purpose. I think Newcastle spent a lot of money on Premier League based players at the time as well. I mean, I say that they spent big money on Isaac, of course, record signing, but I do think there was a one from Paul Mitchell to look abroad, find players at cheaper costs rather than paying the premium, and I just don't think that's quite fits in with what Eddie Howe wants. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I don't think, I'm with you, I didn't feel like it was I wasn't surprised by it happening. I was more just surprised by the timing. I wasn't expecting it to happen immediately, or I didn't have a time frame on it. But I did wonder, as we discussed, that it was coming. That Paul Mitchell, it's very much an appointment that hasn't worked. Sometimes that happens. It doesn't feel like it's married together well. And you're casting it with Paul Mitchell with his brash, confident approach, rubbing up a lot of people behind the scenes the wrong way. Just hasn't gelled in with the way that things were operating.
You're right. It just never felt right from the start. We'd done that video in Germany. You can go back and watch it, and we came away from that feeling. It was a strange feeling because it was as I mentioned before. It was literally it felt like a power battle. Eddie Howe did not like it. I think it was probably an appointment.
What did you describe it as at the weekend?
He described it as a destructive summer.
Now, which could have been talking about the transfers.
I think he probably was, but we seen him in Germany, and we'd done that video on it, and I was concerned with the way Eddie Howe was. He looked uncomfortable.
Very.
And I don't think it's...
People didn't always believe that, by the way, because we're going over old ground here, but the videos that were put out by the football club and BBC, etc., and Sky were different interviews to the one that he gave to us, which wasn't filmed. He was a very different character then, and you could see how uncomfortable he was and how much he needed reassurance. But it felt more than that. It wasn't just like he needed an arm around the shoulder. He needed some proper direction, like what the hell is going on here? I've been doing X, Y, and Z, pushing in this direction, and you're suddenly ripping up the rule book and bringing somebody in he didn't really have a knowledge of.
I think Eddie Howe had been so used, and I think when Dan Ashworth left the club, Eddie Howe made the point, said actually the best thing Dan Ashworth did is he didn't change anything. And I think Paul Mitchell coming in, he wanted to change the recruitment front. And I think Eddie Howe wants control of recruitment.
He does.
And Paul Mitchell wants control, and I think that's where it's broken down.
That was why it was a battle, whereas the Ashworth one wasn't.
Exactly. And who do you go with? Do you go with the man that's delivered Champions League football for the second time in 3 seasons, and the club's 70-year trophy drought, or do you go with Paul Mitchell? And I think for me, it's an absolute no-brainer that you go with Eddie Howe because he's delivered phenomenal things for this football club. He's earned the right to be backed. Yeah.
I've not heard great things about the way Paul Mitchell's operated in our view, so I don't think it'll be a massive loss. I think the level of the work that needs done, they need to bring somebody else in to do that, pick up that slack, because it can't be picked up by anybody else, really, especially not with a new chief executive en route. It's going to be it's a big change, big summer change. Do I think it's healthy that you have this kind of change regularly? No. I think it's better to have some continuity in those key positions, but if you realise you've got the wrong person, it's best to change rather than just hang on and keep getting it wrong. You're better off to accept you've got it wrong and move on. And I think that's what's happened.
There's been more announcement about boardroom changes than has been signed.
There has been. And let's fingers crossed that all changes this summer.
But to try and give sort of some credit, is the fact that they've put the statement out now and announced Paul Mitchell's departure, has it shown like a level of being proactive, where it's like the transfer window is coming, we need to get it, we need to get everyone in position, and maybe I say getting rid of Paul Mitchell. That'll be the thing that we're not too sure on now, is what changes the board now, who does what in his absence.
Till June the 30th, so he's got a full month really to work. He's almost working his notice, which conveniently takes them up to any business they might do with other clubs prior to that PSR deadline. Not for any reason do we think Newcastle United need to sell to satisfy those PSR demands. They've explained to us they're absolutely within them, and it's fine. Yeah. But it's whether they take advantage of other people knowing that they've got this kind of money sitting there and promise of future riches of the Champions League coming next season.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about Paul Mitchell's legacy there. Maybe he's still got a legacy left in him in the last 4 weeks. You don't know how these things are going to play out, because Eddie Howe was very keen to stress the weekend that he wants players in quickly.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Very pointed, I thought he was.
I think over the last few weeks sitting in press conferences, I think Eddie Howe, he's been unusually very, very honest on transfers of what they need and what he wants. And I just wonder I wonder how long they knew about the Paul Mitchell. I wonder if Paul Mitchell knew, because looking at the weekend, he wasn't really involved in the lap of honour. I think he came off the pitch quite early. You'd think by that point when Paul Mitchell's heading off the pitch at St James Park on Sunday, he probably knows it's coming. Unless it was a total shock to him as well, I don't know.
It would make you think that obviously the owner, the chairman, etc. were here at the weekend.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah,
that's why it's come, hasn't it?
Yeah,
there's obviously been meetings and thought, right, we're going to do this. Let's just get it done and move on. So yeah, much else to discuss?
No, as I say, it's hard to judge 12 months when very little has happened really under Paul Mitchell, as I say. I'm seeing a couple of people on Twitter on about the sales, the PSR sales of Cooper Minter and Elliot Anderson. Paul Mitchell might have been involved in those, but he wasn't actually officially appointed until July 4th. I think it was Amanda Stavey who actually, and Darren Eales, who essentially done the PSR deal. So yeah, from then, 2 transfer windows, no major signings. Good to get £20 million for Lloyd Kelly, given that he's limited appearances. Incredible deal, but no,
I didn't rate him.
Yeah.
A centre half who can't really head a ball properly or mark a man wasn't getting 20 million for that daylight robbery.
It's that, yeah. But no, I think in short, Eddie Howe has won the power battle. That's the way I would put it, and I can't really argue with that at all.
Right, a little word from our sponsors now before we tell you what you can expect from the Geordie Journals moving forward.
Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in.
Right, we're back. We'll be doing some more videos and stuff throughout the summer. Probably, if we ever need to jump on and react like this, if you have any ideas, if you want us to talk about anything, any topics you particularly want us to go over, we were going to probably put together some kind of player of the season debate, because I know we kind of disagree on that one. Mm-hmm. But it might be one that has to wait for the weekend, I think.
Yeah, you've got. I mean, we didn't expect to be doing this bonus episode, but yeah, I think we've got a lot of content ideas up with sleeves.
Yeah. Try
and keep busy during the summer months, because as we said on the weekend, even though the season's finished, we're not finished. So
ideal transfer, ideal Champions League draw.
Ideal Champions League draw. Yeah,
might be worth waiting to see when everybody's sorted themselves out, I suppose. But I think all the leagues are done, aren't they?
No, I think all the major top leagues are done. Yeah.
So there's only a few places left over for the qualifiers.
Yeah.
Interesting. We could do that, couldn't we? Ideal Champions League draw.
But if anyone's got any content ideas, put them in the comments. We're always open to suggestions and love it when you guys comment. There's been a lot of comments on the video from the weekend, and we haven't had time to go through it quite yet, because it was literally finished the game on Sunday. Dom's wedding on the Monday, and then we've been playing St James Park this afternoon. Paul Mitchell happens, and then we've give you this video. So
so we're back to our usual selves,
and
less sleepy as the week goes on. I would imagine. Right, thanks for your time. Do like, comment, share, subscribe, and check out all the sponsors' details and things underneath this video. There's a shop. There's all kinds of stuff in the Geordie Journals. But do feel free to comment and let us know your thoughts on Paul Mitchell and his legacy, and what you think the club should do now moving forward, because we're always open for conversation. Right. Good night, good morning, good day, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it might be, wherever you might be watching this. It's good night, good morning, good evening from the Geordie Journals.